Let's see. Dang. There's nothing on. I don't seem. I understand that I have company, though I cannot entertain you as I might wish, perhaps round the tea table or on a stroll about our beloved Mount Vernon. Nonetheless, company is company, and always I am delighted to speak with everyone. I'm so happy too that the month of May is in full bloom. Nothing is a more beautiful time when I think of how all of Mother Nature has come to life. And it seems to be the perfect time to receive the news which I have just gotten. My second granddaughter, Mrs. Peter, has written to me that all the signs are there. She is quite certain now that she is, as we would say, in the increasing way, and that there is to be an addition to the family. My second great granddaughter. According to her calculations, she will be born perhaps by Christmas time. So I celebrate that new life is coming into the world and a perfect time to that. Motherhood defines us always as it life. And for those of us who have the joys of motherhood and the responsibilities, we know that nature and divine has given us a great gift along with those responsibilities. It seems all of my life I have been a mother. I was born the oldest of 8 children. So for all of my life, I have been tending to little ones. There have always see to. And of course, my own children. 4 children were born to me and my first husband, Mr. Custis. And indeed, I knew great sorrow as well as joy with the loss of the first little boy and girl, and Mr. Custis as well. My 2 remaining children and their happiness governed my every thought, and I would not remarry until I found he who would be the perfect father for them. And 40 years ago, in the spring of the year, I was introduced to young Colonel George Washington. And once I saw him with my 2 little ones, they were 3 and not quite 2 years of age, my little Jack and Patsy. They warmed to him and he to them, and I knew I had found their father. Always we have had children with us. The General and I have raised not only our own children, my 2 little ones, but also nieces and nephews have come under our charge. And as families are raised in such a way, I have looked out for even great nieces and nephews as well. We have also been mother and father to many young young gentlemen and ladies who have come into our circle. During the War of Independency, I was delighted to be mother to the soldiers I cared for. And during the presidency, there were young assistants to us who came under our wing. And of course, my niece Fanny, who took care of Mount Vernon while we were away during the presidency in Philadelphia. She was a young mother, and I gave her much advice. Well, after all, we in our old age are like travelers who've been down the long road before others, and we might be able to alert. We know some of the pitfalls, some of the obstacles, and I've always felt it's good to give advices to help in such a situation. I sometimes think that I gave too many advices to Fanny, and I ended up writing to her that truly only experience will be the great teacher for the new mama. But I'm happy to give any advices to all of you. And after all, it would be a delight for me to hear from you and know what you are wondering about. And so I'm delighted to have your questions, and I hope I can be of some help. Do we have any questions? There is a lady, Cynthia Miller, and I see she says, Mrs. Washington, it's lovely to see you. Well, lovely to have you join me. Could you possibly talk a bit about how George Washington was as a stepfather? Oh, and she knows, as I've just mentioned, they were so young when we met. Well, in every way, he not only looked out for their affairs and saw that the estates and all that would belong to them was taken care of, so they had security. But in every other way, in bounds of affection, he was very dear. To my daughter, my sweet Patsy, he was a loving father. And all her life was for her everything a father could ever be. With my son Jackie, he attempted to steer the boy in the right direction. The general himself had not had the advantage of a full education. His father had died when he was young. His mother was quite an influence on him in his training, but he wanted my son to enjoy all of the benefits of a proper schooling. And I'm afraid my Jackie would have rather been playing out of doors than studying with his tutor, Mr. McGowan. And so often I would give in to his quest to escape the classroom, remind him that he had an obligation, that as he was born with privilege, so he would also have the duty to do well in life, and that meant schooling. But always he had their benefit in his mind, and they loved him. You know, boys and girls are raised in very different ways. Boys have to have, I really truly believe, the example of a man that they can look to, that they can always say for the rest of their life, what would he have done? An example of a life well lived for them to copy. And my grandson, as his father before him, my son, often said that whenever he comes to a divergent path in life, he has only to say, what would General Washington do? And he knows it will be the right. So, as grandfather, he has been as fine as he was as father. You know, we brought up my two youngest grandchildren during the presidency, and they looked to him as father in every way. I remember a year ago coming back from all those long years of the presidency, and there was my first great granddaughter waiting, who immediately held out her baby arms to the general. He's always been a favorite with children. It was then his happy duty to teach the little babe how to walk there at our beloved piazza. And as I watched him go patiently to and fro with her, she was holding on to his one finger with her hand. It brought me back 40 years before, when he was so kind to my own little girl, Mark. So thank you for such a lovely question, my dear. Are there others? Alex has said, how did you give your kids a good education? I'm assuming, Alex, you mean children. We have sheep, and of course, goats are known to be on a farm. But our children, how did you? I give them a good education. Well, my son had the benefit of the inheritance from his Custis family. But you know, the true education for girls, and I was very careful to instruct my granddaughters as well as my daughter. And indeed, it is a noble profession and education to become an old fashioned Virginia housewife. That carries with it great responsibility and has to require many years of training. What would the world be? What would we do if we did not have the woman of the household to see to the every need of the family. We have to teach our young ladies how to see that the family is fed and clothed and also doctored. We are the family doctors. So it's a very, very fine education that we receive at our mother's knee. My granddaughter Nellie told me quite recently that when she was helping her sister, she found she had grown several inches on the strength of being brought up to be such a good housewife. And I am proud of that. But there is an education for both boys and girls that is absolutely crucial. The general and I were raised in an old fashioned manner, but we were given those great principles of living. We were taught what we call the virtues. The age of infancy is considered from the time the child is born until they are about 6 years of age. Boys and girls are treated very much the same during that time, and they are taught their right behaviors. They are taught to be honest and they are taught to be civil if they always are taught to remember to think of the other person in all their doings. They are taught that waste not, want not should be their credo in every situation. And above all, to do their proper duty. If at the end of every day you can forever say, ah, yes, I have done my best duty this day, then you will have lived a good life. And it's important that children learn that. Nowadays, there is an addition added to the duties of mother. Now, in our new country, the mothers have that responsibility to raise their children to be proper citizens of our new country. The mother's role is always significant, but now even carries the weight of good citizenship. I hope that helps you, Alex, and I hope you've had a good education as well in the virtues. Oh, Shauna has come on to ask, what kind of games did your children like to play? Well, when they were bringing all of the games and desires to play to Mount Vernon, by that time there were many more games than I had known as a child. We had to make do with one another. We would play Ring Round the Rosie and hide and seek out and entertain ourselves. But my children began to have all sorts of games. There was the game of life that was played with a board and dice and bowls and shuttlecock, where you bat a cork with feathers to and fro to each other. And there began to be toys made just for children and books, stories where they could learn lessons in life. The Little Pretty Pocketbook was one we purchased for them, and there were stories that taught good lessons. The general always liked to read the story of the shepherd boy who pretended he'd seen a wolf, and because he was dishonest, he and his sheep met a very sad end. Honesty is the best policy was the very, very important lesson of that story. And so the children and my grandchildren even have little sets of tea, china. Oh, they are very spoiled in that way. But I think games of imagination that teach about life are always the best. Thank you, Shauna. Is there another question? I know I tend to go on, but I enjoy it. Stephen has asked a question. Lady Washington, were you and your children ever inoculated for the pox? I assume you mean the smallpox, Stephen. Oh, yes, indeed. It was the custom for families to take a house together and all the family participate and take the pox together. My nephews, I saw too, were all inoculated at the same time. I had my inoculation during the years of the war. It was in the summer of 17 and 76, and I had come down with the army from Boston to New York with the general. And he had asked me, he never orders. He had asked me if I would go into Philadelphia and there be inoculated against that dread sickness. We lost, more soldiers to the terrible smallpox than any battle. And though I doubted, and he said he doubted that I had the resolution at first to go ahead with it, I didn't wish to worry him any more than was already a terrible situation in New York with the army. So I gave in to it, and I was glad in the end that I had. It's no easy undertaking, but it did help me to be an example for the soldiers, and that we inoculated went a long way to winning the war. So it's worth it in the long run. But as when I had my nephews inoculated, you must be very careful. All their clothes must be boiled. There's a great danger of contagion, and we have to watch out for that. Thank you, Stephen. I hope you've been inoculated as well. Laura asked me, I know faith has always been important to the general. How did you and the general share your faith with your children? Oh, my dear, that's a very crucial, very fine question. My mother taught me what I believe is the greatest habit of my lifetime, that always and ever, each day, no matter how busy I might be, I should set aside at least 1 hour for my prayers and my devotions. And that is a habit I have kept up through many, many years of, oh, great trials and comings and goings. I've always felt that that hour well spent in prayer has given me the strength to see myself through the many trials I admit that I have known. I am no unusual person in that I have known sorrows, but that habit, that faith, has seen me through. Of course, the general and I were brought up in the Church of England, and we were very well trained. We learned to read from the Book of Common Prayer, and the general is a member of the vestry at many churches. Now, since the war, it is known as the American Episcopal Church. My great grandfather was the first rector of the church in dear old Williamsburg parish, and I believe in regular attendance at church, but we have always felt that time spent in prayer is crucial to everyone. And I hope that I have been able to instill that in the young people about me. Example is important, and they have seen that example always. Thank you, Laura. Jill has come on. How did you teach your granddaughter sewing skills? Oh, my dear, I think I was born with a needle in my hand. My mother would forever be at me to improve my stitchery. And so I knew that was an important skill. For my part, I find it very comforting. I enjoy to sit and sew and be read aloud to, and often the general will read to me. And I think it is a time for ladies to come together. During the war, I would have sewing circles, inviting the ladies in the surrounding towns near the camps to come and sit and sew shirts and knit stockings for the soldiers. And of course, it's most necessary for mending and for practicalities. I have to see to that every day. But it is also a way that ladies show, as they like to sketch and draw, that they can be quite decorative as well. Some girls are more talented in that way, and I have to say that my Nellie has shown great talent. In my old age, I have to use spectacles now, but I was able in the old days to put as many as 20 stitches to an inch. Now I'm afraid I'm relegated to much more practical work, but I enjoy it, as does she. I hope you enjoy it as well, my dear. Nothing like sitting and sewing together. Oh, Dave, is that David? Thank you for entertaining so many visitors. Could you describe one of your trips to a winter encampment and why you would make such a long, hard journey? Were you one of the soldiers, Dave? I have a special place in my heart for my soldiers. I shall never forget, shortly after the general had been made commander of the army, he wrote to me asking that I should come to join him in that first camp up in Boston. I didn't know then that it would be the great venture of my lifetime, and that I would go to every one of those winter camps. The journeys were not easy ones, but I found no reason to complain because I saw what the soldiers were enduring. And I knew that they needed me, my skills as doctor, and to keep house for the general and our military family at headquarters. This preoccupation with the war kept me a part of things, made me know that I was of some help, as the general made me feel. I was known to the soldiers by the title I hold dearest, Lady Washington, the general's lady, the soldier's best friend, and that I shall ever be. I found during the years of the presidency, many times soldiers would come to the houses we were using for presidents' houses, and they just want to sit and talk. And how gratified I was that they remembered me and made me feel that I was still their very best friend. Thank you, Dave. Laura, again, what a pretty name. Martha, how did you and she's calling the General George, he was Colonel Washington, meet? And can you tell us a little bit about your courtship? Well, we were introduced by a friend, a great neighbor of mine, Major Richard Chamberlain. I was living about 5 and 20 miles from old Williamsburg at the time, my home, that which I had shared with dear Mr. Custis, called, by the way, the White House. It's the only White House we know of. I was living alone as a young widow. I was managing the effort to keep almost 17,000 acres in tobacco and to see to the family business. My friends and family were all urging, but 26 years of age when I was made a widow. Extremely choosy, as my mother said. I turned down proposals. I wanted to find the perfect father for my children. I always say that in spite of the efforts of neighbors and family to be matchmakers, the ultimate matchmaker in our situation was divine providence itself. As you are older, and there are many drawbacks to old age. There are the increasing decrepitudes of the body and the aches and pains, but you are also given a special sight to be able to look back at your life and to see the patterns of your existence. And one can see from that vantage that divine providence was always working its way. And indeed, it did in that instance, for young Colonel George Washington was making a very trip to Williamsburg, and he just happened to encounter the very neighbor, dear Major Chamberlain, with whom I happened to be visiting that March day in 1758. And my neighbor became partner to Providence and brought him home. And from that first moment, when he crossed the threshold into my life, he crossed into my children's as well. So I think we can look back and see that was Providence indeed. It was a very short courtship because at the time he was fighting the early war with the French. He was way out in the western wilderness of the Pennsylvania country and the Ohio. He wasn't near Williamsburg at all. This was a rare journey. And he had to go back out to the west. But before he took leave to go back, he made his offer. I think he was worried that perhaps if he waited until his enlistment was up that December, that I might not yet be waiting. You ladies will understand when I tell you he needn't have worried. I had already decided he was the one. But we were, though we were both of us 26 years, we are the same in age. We had both lived quite a bit of life. He had known life and death on the field of battle, and I, as so many women, had known my own battlefield with the loss of children and husband. And we knew the character of one another by reputation, and in every way found ourselves very pleased in one another's company. It's very difficult for young people to imagine two old people were ever young themselves. And so I continually find that visitors, well, also because our portraits have been painted in the main in these later years, they look at the general and myself and can't imagine that we were actually young when we were brought together. But we were, and I have those memories and always will. Thank you, Laura, for asking. Oh, I have a question from M.B. Hilton. Good afternoon, Lady Washington. How would you characterize your relationship with General Washington's mother, his dear late mother? Well, as I was mentioning the importance of mothers, no one can ever underestimate that important influence in life. It is the first influence upon the child, and the mother sets the child on the path of life in the right way. And Mrs. Washington, the general's mother, was very fine in setting that example. She had been a widow, and he was very young when his father died. So she depended upon her boy to help in every way. She taught him very strictly right behaviors and expected always that he would look after not only her, but his younger brothers and sister. So he learned responsibility at an early age. She was a person I always admired, for unlike myself, who as a widow found a partner for life to assist me, she had to go on alone. And her son always was mindful of that. He was so devoted to his mother that even before he went off to New York to make the oath as president, knowing she was ill, he said he must ride down to Fredericksburg to pay his respects to that woman who had been his great influence. And I think that speaks in great testimony to the importance in one's life. I hope you're good to your mother as well. Rosina, what a beautiful name. She says, so wonderful to see you again. Oh, I hope that we will have many times to meet again, my dear. Sit out on the piazza and overlook the beautiful river. She says, can you tell me something of your experience as the general's wife, as he was our first president? Well, I married young Colonel Washington, who had every intention after leaving the years of the war out there in the wilderness of being Farmer Washington. I did not know what lay ahead, as we do not. I think Providence is kind sometimes when it disguises the future from us. I didn't know that we would have to spend half of these 40 years far away from the place we loved so very fine. I didn't know that I would follow him to the camps during the war. And after the war's end, I surely thought we had given all that could be given. We had no idea that the presidency lay in our future. But as I mentioned, a mother teaches children to do their duty, and you can do no else. And so when the country needed him to be its first president, I knew the general would agree, that I would as well be beside him. I would be his partner during the presidency as in all else in life. Oh, I thought we were getting too old. We were 57 years of age, and we dearly loved to be home. We brought our two young grandchildren with us first to New York and Philadelphia, and we began to create the path that others have followed as the new president and the president's lady. I made the best of it, but was very happy when he decided two terms were sufficient. I was glad to come home again and see all our dear friends, such as yourself, my dear. Is there one more question? I am so wishing there was more time. Oh, a pretty name, Elizabeth. I have a granddaughter named Elizabeth. She says, what lessons would you share with those who are facing times of uncertainty? Oh, my dear, the greatest lesson in life to learn is that it will always be uncertain. That's why, as I mentioned, I think we must be grateful Providence disguises what is ahead. If we knew all of the obstacles and trials before us, we would be faint hearted sojourners on our journey of life. But I have found always the great old saying, sufficient unto this day. There's always something that can be done. Every day, no matter what challenge you meet it with a good heart. Do what you can in every situation that you might find yourself. See what can be done. Keep yourself busy and do for others. That is the way, along with faith, that we will be ready for whatever life may bring. Thank you for that lovely question. Do I have one more question? Oh, I so enjoyed talking. I hate to think that it might be the end of our time together. I'm afraid since I was a young girl, all in my family and those who know me will tell you I dearly love a conversation, and I hope there will be times for many more. I would wish the very best to all of you, and my love and thoughts are with all the families, and especially the mothers. I know the joys, I know the sorrows, but there is no finer calling than to be a mother. Do you know the general is being called father to his country? And someone recently said to me, then you must be mother of your country. Well, if I have to take any private knowledge, being a mother is my favorite role. But even in a public way, if I have to be remembered as more than I would hope, just as a worthy partner for the general, to be mother of a country, my, that is quite something indeed, and I'm proud. Thank you, everyone. Oh, it's been lovely.